Hello again. I wanted to do a bit of an update. An update plus new information. So I had put up a video before that was discussing my experience with taking Effexor, Venlafaxine, and all the side effects that I felt that I was having with that medication. And it was a really, really horrible experience. But I've come to learn something more that I believe contributed to that situation, and it's only fair to, or I feel it's fair to, add that to the mix. So what that is before going on the Effexor Venlafaxine, I'm just going to call it Venlafaxine, just to make it easier than saying both the names. But being put on to that medication, I had to first come off of the medication that I had been previously taking, which was Fluoxetine, otherwise known as Prozac. That medication I had been on for between 13 and 15 years. And they took me off of that medication in 2 weeks before starting the Effexor or Venlafaxine. So a little bit of information about fluoxetine. It is one of the SSRIs, so serotonin reuptake inhibitor, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that has a long life in your body, meaning that like even when you stop it, it's a long time to completely get it out of your system, and that can be weeks, literally weeks, before your body is completely, has purged itself, or, got rid of it, however you want to, whatever you want to word you want to use. So when you think about it, right at the point when my body was starting to kind of like maybe have the last dregs of it left, I'm put on this new medication. But my body was on Fluoxetine, Prozac for 13 to 15 years. Like, I can't remember exactly in there, but we'll go at 13 then. So 2 weeks is considered a rapid, tapering, which is actually, I'm looking down at my notes because I've taken a whole bunch of notes so that I'm not just trying to remember things off the top of my head, but it talks about a tapering period is typically done over a period of several weeks or months with some patients on long-term treatments, or who experience severe symptoms needing a gradual taper over months or even years. So I had done like a summary of all the information, and it said in summary, rapidly stopping fluoxetine after more than 10 years in only 2 weeks is strongly discouraged by medical professionals due to the high risk of severe and potentially protracted withdrawal symptoms. Wow. Now, these are common withdrawal symptoms. So, physical, dizziness, lightheadedness, flu-like symptoms, headache, body aches, sweating, nausea, brain zaps, those electrical shock sensations, tremors, and sleep disturbances, vivid dreams. Okay. Now on to the psychological, emotional, anxiety, irritability, agitation, mood swings, aggression, or a return of the original depressive or anxious symptoms, a relapse. So that's the withdrawal from the medication. And that's going to be amped up because it's over a decade. And now we're introducing a new medication that targets some of the neurochemicals in my brain, but not all of them. And then we're going to introduce a new one, which was the norepinephrine. Oh, I can't pronounce that one right. So blaming everything on the Venlafaxine wasn't fair, because at that point I was completely unaware of what my body was going through from this rapid tapering that they had done. In every place that I looked, in every medical book, paper, scientific review, etc., I have pages and pages of it that discusses that is incredibly ill-advised, and even using the word of dangerous. Yeah, abrupt or a rapid discontinuation, stopping an antidepressant like fluoxetine too quickly does not allow the brain to adjust to the sudden decrease in serotonin levels. This is the main cause of antidepressant discontinuation syndrome. I didn't even know that was a thing. Nobody mentioned any of this to me. I have absolutely zero faith in doctors at all at any point anymore. Like, can you imagine in every medical, like I said, review, study, paper, anything and everything that has to do with a rapid discontinuation or tapering of an SSRI that somebody has been on for over 10 years, and that's including all of them, is strongly disadvised, that it is not a safe thing to do. But yet, they gave me 2 weeks. A long-term use, taking an antidepressant for a prolonged period like 10 years increases the likelihood and potential severity of withdrawal symptoms when discontinued. Some research suggests that people on antidepressants for over 3 years report more severe withdrawal effects. The fluoxetine's half-life, remember that was the thing that I was telling you about? that it stays in your system longer than a lot of other ones. Fluoxetine has a longer half-life compared to many other SSRIs, which often means withdrawal symptoms may start later, sometimes weeks after stopping, but can still occur and be significant. In one review, 40% of people who abruptly stopped fluoxetine still experience symptoms 6 weeks after discontinuation. Yeah, because here I have the thing here, a recommended protocol for discontinuation. And I underlined here, a 2-week period after 10 years of use would be considered a rapid, unsafe taper. So what would be the recommended? Tapering is typically done over a period of several weeks or months with some patients on long-term treatment or who experience severe symptoms needing a very gradual taper over months or even years. And then I should have been monitored. The standard recommendation is to reduce the dose slowly and monitor the patient every 2 to 4 weeks after each dose reduction. So they shouldn't even be reducing the dose till every 2 to 4 weeks. I went from 80 to 0 in 2 weeks. In summary, rapidly stopping fluoxetine after 10 years and only 2 weeks is strongly discouraged by the medical professionals due to the high risk of severe and potentially protracted withdrawal symptoms. So here are some of the following withdrawal symptoms a person stopping it too quickly is most likely going to experience. A feeling of detachment, a loss of balance or coordination, a sensation that resembles an electric shock in the head, which may describe as brain zaps, anxiety underlined, depression underlined, diarrhea underlined, difficulty concentrating, dizziness or vertigo, fatigue underlined, flu-like symptoms such as chills or body aches, involuntary movements, mood changes underlined, nausea and vomiting, ringing in the ears or otherwise known as tinnitus, sensory disturbances such as smelling odors that are not actually there. What? Sleep issues including vivid dreams and nightmares. And you know why that is when they talk about the sleep? Is because in the meantime, I have visited a doctor who runs sleep studies. And I was telling him about my whole journey and so on and so forth. And he said, interesting. Because fluoxetine is known to definitely affect sleep. I'm like, wow. And because I've been complaining about sleep issues for the last 10 years. And one of the things that I didn't realize, and then this doctor, sleep doctor, who's a real doctor, it took me 8 months to get in to see him, by the way. He was saying that it affects the dream part of sleep. And it was interesting that when I went to visit him, that just shortly before that, I had had my first dream in 10 years. I didn't even realize I hadn't been dreaming anymore. It was terrifying. because when you haven't had it for so long, you're not really sure what it is. Like, I thought there was somebody in my place. It was very discombobulating. I was very, oh my God, I was so confused. I didn't know what was happening. I was like, what is this now? And then I actually realized the next night when it happened again that I was like, I'm dreaming. Oh my God. This is dreaming. Holy shit. It's been so long that I didn't even realize I wasn't even dreaming anymore. And then I've just now started dreaming again. Oh, wow. So that then coupled with that new medication, the part that's so upsetting to me is that my life completely fell apart. Like, literally, I couldn't work because I was either having insomnia or I would sleep for a day because I would go for so long without sleep. The level of anxiety was just like nothing I had ever felt before. I couldn't work. The crying spells, oh my God, I never stopped crying. And you can see from most of my videos already that I'm crying in almost every one of them at some point in time. I am crying now because this just, brings back really painful memories. But on the whole, I'm not, crying every day like I had been for probably about 4 months. I literally cried at least once a day. That was on a good day if I just cried once, because usually I could have weeping spells of just like hours and like just crying and crying and crying, and it was like, so how do you work? So you use all your credit cards, to pay for bills and pay for rent, but depending on your credit, that runs out at some point in time. And so then I ended up being taken to the rental board because I fell behind in my rent. And that's not even completed yet. That, if I'm going to have a place or not. And it's due to doctors once again. That, like, how do you do that to somebody? They saw what I was going through. They were witnessing it all. I was at the doctor's so frequently and panicking and crying and being put on sleeping pills, anti-anxiety medication on top of everything else. That no one thought that, we need to get her back onto the Prozac. She has been taken off too fast. And she is having severe effects. No. So my whole life crashed and burned because of it. So yeah, I'm deeply in debt. I had to get a second phone because the other phone I can't even answer because it's only creditors calling. So I'm still dealing with the tenant and landlord board. Because underneath it all, I also still have chronic fatigue syndrome, which this whole thing totally took it to a next level. So when I did start feeling a little better, then I pushed myself really hard to try to get back to work and make the money to prevent my eviction, to try to pay back. And all that did was trigger a severe flare-up of my chronic fatigue, where my body just said, nope. And I have like zero faith in doctors. And you know what? This is just a shitty month, you know, not having any family or anything like that, and feeling very depressed and but I'm not going to tell the doctor this. But anyways, my point was to all of this is that I just really wanted to let people know that if you have been on any antidepressant medication for an extended period of time, even if it's only been a couple of years, do not let them rapid taper you, meaning, you know, 2 weeks, a month. No. They need to see how you're responding. So to go down in very small increments, you know, over a period of time, a week, 2 weeks, and to be monitoring you. How are you feeling? What are the withdrawal symptoms you're feeling? Are you feeling any withdrawal symptoms? And what are they? You know, and on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you place them? To at least go through the list with you to decide, you know, if your taper is happening too quickly and to slow it down. You know, because like I said, through all the literature that I've read, there are some people that it can take up to a year or more to become completely free of this with the least amount of side effects. That's what the whole point is. It's, you know, yeah, it might be a year, but the thing is if it's not adding severe disruption to your life and you're still being able to live a more like a normal life, you're still able to go to work, you're still able to have relationships, contact with people, you're still engaged with the world, so on and so forth. Those type of things, you know, your anxiety hasn't gone up, your sleep hasn't changed, you know, or just been disrupted too much, etc., etc. Like I said, you know, having kind of a, you know, a list of the different side effects that can transpire and then doing a ranking system on them. At least do this for yourself. At least do this for yourself. Do the research, look online, look at all with the withdrawal symptoms and create your own even. You know, if your doctor that you go to see, you know, is it starts talking about some kind of rapid tapering. Oh, it's going to be fine and all this kind of shit right there. You know, they don't give a shit about you and that you're going to have to do this on your own. And you can do it. You can do it. From all the reading I've done, you can do it as long as you are doing a gradual taper, you are doing the smallest amount, and you are giving enough space in between the dosage reduction, you know, to be monitoring the effects that it's having on you and your life. You know, the psychological, emotional, physical, and your life in general. Just then you take hold of it. But there's also, I found another doctor on YouTube, Dr. Josef, Josef. I will actually put it in the description. And he is somebody who is an actual psychiatrist, actually worked for the FDA at one point in time, and became very, very disillusioned with, I don't even know if that's the right word, or just not believing in how they were practicing psychiatry using these types of medications. And so he stepped aside from that and has started not only a YouTube channel, but he has his own clinic and everything to help people that have been on these medications, you know, for even longer than I was, and want to get off this and to do it safely, to do a proper gradual tapering system. So, you know what, actually I should have mentioned him right from the beginning. You know, I've watched a lot of his videos and talking about how to safely taper somebody. And then, like I said, even with his clinics, and that, I think he even does some online, you know, stuff. But he is a doctor that's genuinely committed to helping you safely do this. Where all of the doctors that I was talking to while I was going through this, they trivialized it so much. It is mind-blowing. That's what I'm saying. I have absolutely zero faith in any doctors anymore. At this point in time, I don't even know if it'll matter enough soon enough. But anyways, I wanted to add that in there so that, you know, it wasn't a complete vilification of Venlafaxine Effexor. I still don't think it was the medication for me, but at the same time, I really didn't get to really understand it because I was going through a severe Fluoxetine Prozac withdrawal. So I wanted to add that in there for anyone who might come across this video because of the names of the medications I'm going to put in the title. So yes, please do your own research. There is so much information out there now and talking about how to safely taper. So be safe, take care, and do try to get off these medications because they really aren't the end-all be-all that they tried to make them appear to be. That's a whole nother deep dive and rabbit hole you could go down to if you'd like to. But they wanted people to believe in this whole thinking of that some people it's a genetic thing. It's not your fault. You know what I mean? You know, you don't have enough of these chemicals in your brain, so you need these medications. That's all a bunch of booey. And I'm going to leave it at that for this video.